Have you ever met someone who felt like a mirror to your soul, so familiar it was almost terrifying, so intense it pierced through your logic, yet somehow it could never work? Maybe the timing was all wrong. Maybe they belonged to someone else. Maybe they loved you, but not enough. Or maybe they never even noticed you the way you noticed them. And despite all of that, you couldn't let them go. The connection haunted you. Not just in your heart, but almost cosmically. Like it was meant to be, and yet never could be. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, would say this is no accident. It's not just bad luck or tragic romance. It is the soul speaking in the most mysterious, symbolic language it knows. And it's trying to wake you up. This video is not about love stories. It's about soul stories. It's about the kinds of encounters that shape the architecture of your inner world, even when they leave you shattered. Because Jung believed that the soul has a purpose far deeper than happiness, it seeks wholeness. And often it uses relationships, especially the ones we can't have, as catalysts. Not to complete us, but to reveal us. To show us what's buried, what's forgotten, what's unconscious. The one you can't have, they aren't just a person. They're a symbol, a doorway, a reflection. And when you start seeing them that way, everything changes.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's start with something Jung called the anima and animus, the inner feminine in men, and the inner masculine in women. Jung believed that each of us has within us a psychological other, a complementary force that lives in the unconscious. And when we meet someone who embodies the traits of our inner opposite, it creates a magnetic pull. It feels divine, fated, like something ancient waking up. But here's the twist, we're not falling in love with them. We're falling in love with the part of ourselves that they reflect. And if we're not conscious of this, we project all of our unlived potential onto them. When we make them the savior, the soulmate, the one. And the more unavailable they are, the more powerful the projection becomes because they remain the perfect canvas for our fantasies. Ask yourself, what did the one you couldn't have awaken in you? Was it passion, creativity, confidence, tenderness? And were those traits really theirs, or were they yours waiting to be reclaimed? Jung would say the attraction you feel is not just about chemistry. It's about the psyche calling itself home. The one you can't have is often the one who carries your disowned archetypes. The parts of you you've suppressed. And so the pain of separation is not just about losing them, it's about losing access to the parts of yourself you saw in them. This is where the soul's genius becomes clear. Because the very impossibility of the relationship forces you inward. You can't resolve it externally. You can't win them over. You can't fix the timing. So you're left with one option, face yourself. And that's exactly what the soul wants. It wants you to stop searching for completion in another and start finding it within. That's not poetic. It's psychological. It's archetypal. The soul doesn't care about comfort. It cares about integration. And sometimes it will break your heart to open your eyes. Let's go deeper. Jung believed that the unconscious uses symbols to communicate with the conscious mind. And what is a person if not the most powerful symbol we can encounter? The one you can't have may symbolize freedom, or safety, or passion, or innocence, or the life you never gave yourself permission to live. And the pain you feel isn't just longing, it's the ache of unlived life. the ache of potential trapped in projection. And until you reclaim that projection, until you see that what you seek in them is actually yours, you will remain emotionally entangled. Not because of love, but because of misunderstanding. Here's the paradox: the one you can't have may have shown up precisely because you're ready to grow. They appear not to complete you, but to initiate you, to show you where you're fragmented, where you're asleep, where you've settled. Jung would say this is a moment of individuation, the process of becoming whole. And like all initiations, it comes with pain. You lose the fantasy, you lose the illusion. But in doing so, you gain yourself. You retrieve your energy, your power, your soul. So let me ask you something profound. What if the real purpose of the one you can't have was never to be with you but to awaken you? What if they were a soul mirror sent not to stay in your life but to shake it, to break the shell of your ego, to rip open your heart, to show you what you're capable of feeling so you stop living half asleep? Would that make the pain any less real? No, but it would make it meaningful. And Jung would say that meaning is what transforms suffering into initiation. This is not about romanticizing the unavailable. It's about deconstructing the myth. It's about realizing that what you truly want is not them, it's the version of you that they woke up. The you who dares to feel, who dares to dream, who dares to want more. And that version of you, it doesn't need to be lost when they leave. It can be integrated. It can be claimed. It can become the foundation of a life built not on longing, but on wholeness. So the next time you find yourself haunted by someone you can't have, pause. Breathe, detach from the fantasy, and ask, what are they showing me about myself? What archetype are they activating? What unlived life are they pointing me toward? Because when you stop chasing them and start listening to what they represent, you begin to alchemize the wound. You turn projection into power. You turn heartbreak into homecoming. That is Jung's method. That is the soul's path. And that is why sometimes the one you can't have is the one who changes your life the most, not by staying, but by leaving you with yourself. The alchemy of longing, how unavailable love awakens your deepest self. Longing is one of the most misunderstood forces in human experience. We treat it like a weakness, like a painful inconvenience to be numbed or healed. But Carl Jung saw it differently. He saw longing, especially the kind that arises from unfulfilled love, not as a curse, but as a catalyst, a form of inner alchemy. Because longing, when examined deeply, is not about the other person at all. It's about you. It's about the parts of yourself you've buried, denied, or forgotten. The parts that come alive in the presence of someone you can't have. And in that ache, in that unbearable tension between desire and impossibility, your soul speaks. Let's break this down logically, but also mythically. When you long for someone who's unavailable, your rational mind tells you to let them go, to move on. And yet, something deeper holds on. Why? Because what you're actually attached to is not the person, it's the state of being they activate in you. Aliveness, passion, hope, presence. These are not things they give you. These are things they awaken in you. And that awakening is what you're truly afraid to lose. Jung would say, this is a projection, but not in the shallow sense. It's not delusion, it's symbolic. That person becomes an image onto which your unconscious projects your deepest yearning, not just for romantic love, but for wholeness. Ask yourself, what part of me came alive when I met them? And why had that part been sleeping? These are not sentimental questions. They are soul-level diagnostics. They reveal where your energy has been trapped. Maybe you stopped dreaming. Maybe you stopped believing in magic. Maybe you settled for a life that made sense but didn't make you feel. And then they appeared not to rescue you, but to remind you, to say, there is more. And you forgot. When you understand this, the longing becomes sacred. Not because you should cling to it, but because you should listen to it. It's not asking you to chase the person. It's asking you to chase yourself. Jung believed that the energy we give to others, especially those we idealize, is often energy we've disowned. We don't see their beauty. We see our beauty reflected back. We don't see their wisdom, we see the wisdom we crave. And so the work is not to diminish them. It's to reclaim us. To take back the qualities we projected and begin to cultivate them inwardly. If they made you feel inspired, ask, how can I inspire myself? If they made you feel seen, ask, where am I still hiding from my own gaze? If they made you believe in love, ask, what part of me still doubts I am lovable unless someone else confirms it? This is the alchemy of longing. You transmute the pain by extracting the meaning. You extract the meaning by tracing the emotion back to its archetypal root. This isn't therapy. This is mythic psychology. You're not just healing, you're awakening. And what you awaken is not dependent on the person at all. They were the match, but you are the fire. Let's go further. Jung taught that the soul has a teleological nature. It moves toward purpose, toward evolution, and it uses suffering, especially emotional suffering, as a guide. That means heartbreak is not just something to survive. It's something to follow, like a thread in a dark cave. Not because pain is noble for its own sake, but because it leads you home. Imagine that the one you can't have is not the end of your story, but the beginning of your return. Return to your inner world, your inner child, your inner creator, your inner lover. Because that's what they really activated, a memory of your wholeness. Now, here's the hardest part to accept. The longing may never fully go away. And that's okay, because its purpose was never to be extinguished, it was to be refined, matured, elevated. When you stop trying to kill the longing and start using it as fuel for becoming, it transforms. It softens. It becomes less of a wound and more of a wellspring, a source of creativity, of poetry, and of depth. Jung would say that the soul speaks through symbols, and every longing, every unfulfilled desire is a symbol of the divine trying to break through the mundane. And if you're willing to receive it not just as pain, but as invitation, you begin to live on a different frequency. So let's bring this into practice. The next time you feel that ache, the longing for someone who isn't yours, who maybe never was, pause. Don't push it down. Don't dramatize it either. Just ask, what is this feeling pointing to inside me? What am I truly missing? You might discover it's not them. It's your own voice, your own body, your own passion, your own soul saying, come back to me. I've been waiting. Jung believed that we must learn to live symbolically. That means seeing every person, every longing, every heartbreak, not just as an event, but as a message, a meaning. a myth. And the one you can't have, they're not just a lost love. They are a key, a portal, a sacred disruption. And if you walk through the fire they ignited in you, you'll find that the treasure wasn't them. It was always you. Let me ask you one more question and sit with this one deeply. Who are you becoming because of the one you couldn't have? That question doesn't close the story. It opens it. Because once you stop chasing them and start becoming the version of yourself they awakened, you no longer need them to come back. You become the one you've been waiting for. Integration and liberation, how to reclaim the parts of yourself they reflected. There's a haunting truth that Carl Jung uncovered in the depths of the psyche. When we fall for someone we can't have, we aren't just falling into love, we're falling into ourselves. Not the self we know, not the self we show, but the self we've exiled, the self we've forgotten, the self we're terrified to claim. That's why these connections feel like fate, why they linger years after the last word. Because they aren't just people. They're mirrors. They reflect what we've hidden, what we've denied, what we've projected. And the moment you realize that, you stop needing them to come back. Because you understand they were never the destination. They were the map. Jung called this process integration the act of becoming whole by reclaiming the parts of ourselves we've split off. When you meet someone who activates deep emotion, especially someone you can't have, it's often because they carry a piece of you that you lost along the way. Maybe they're bold, and you've been timid. Maybe they're passionate, and you've been numb. Maybe they're expressive, and you've been silent. Whatever it is, your soul recognizes it instantly. And it says, that's what we're missing. But instead of realizing it's our own potential, we attach it to them. We think we need them to feel that way again. But that's the illusion. The truth is you need you. Integration begins the moment you stop asking, why did they leave? And start asking, what did they awaken in me that I now must claim? That's where the power is. That's where the transformation happens. Because the qualities you admired in them, those weren't fantasies. Those were real. But they were yours. Dormant, waiting. That's why Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. The transformation doesn't end when they walk away. It begins when you walk inward. So how do we do this? How do we reclaim the parts of ourselves we projected onto someone else? The first step is awareness. You must name the traits you admired. Write them down. Don't just say they were amazing. Be precise. They were adventurous, creative, sensitive, free, ambitious, honest. Then ask, where in my life have I disowned this trait? If they were free and you feel stuck, why? Who told you it wasn't safe to be free? If they were expressive and you're quiet, when did you learn to silence your voice? This isn't about copying them. It's about reintegrating you. You're not trying to become them. You're trying to become whole. The second step is ownership. You must stop waiting for them to reflect that light back to you. You must become the reflector, the source. If they made you feel alive, you must find where your own aliveness is buried. Maybe it's in your art, your truth, your body, your voice, your dream. Maybe it's in the risks you stopped taking, the emotions you stopped feeling, the life you stopped living. Whatever it is, this is your invitation not to go backwards, but to go deeper, to retrieve your soul from the places you abandoned it. Let me ask you a question most people never dare to ask themselves. What if the version of you that existed when you were with them wasn't created by them but revealed by them? And what if that version of you is still here, still alive, still waiting? Would you chase them, or would you finally choose you? The third step is creation. Integration is not just internal, it's active. It's not enough to feel inspired. You must live inspired. You must create from the energy they woke up in you. Start the project. Make the move. Say the truth. Write the book. Paint the pain. Turn the ache into art. That's how you honor the soul message. Not by clinging to the person, but by becoming the person you saw through them. Because that wasn't a fantasy. It was a preview. And the final step is liberation. This is where the grief begins to burn clean, where the longing transforms into legacy, where the story stops being about the one that got away and starts being about the self that came back. Because once you've reclaimed the parts of you they reflected, they're no longer your missing piece. They're just a chapter, a sacred turning point, a soul mirror that shattered the illusion so you could see yourself clearly. Jung believed that our greatest suffering often comes from misunderstanding our projections. We think we've lost someone else, when really we've been shown where we've lost ourselves. And that's not tragedy. That's initiation. That's the moment the unconscious becomes conscious. And when that happens, you don't just heal, you evolve. So let me leave you with one last question, one that might take your breath away if you answer it honestly. What version of you was born in the mirror of someone you couldn't keep? And are you willing to live as them, even if they never come back? That's the final liberation. The moment you stop needing the echo because you've become the voice. The moment you stop needing the mirror because you've become the reflection. The moment you realize you never needed them to complete you. You needed them to reveal you. And now it's time to live as that.